that addition, I would support Commissioner Engel's motion to approve
Thank you.
as amended.
So,
Go ahead, Brad.
Thank you. Just for the purpose of housekeeping, I would ask that we move 26016 under my committee rather than management personnel. If you just look at the body of it, the submission is from the public safety committee. That's regarding the dispatch.
You're moving 26016.
Yeah, under my committee.
That's fine.
Rather than management personnel.
Is the maker of the motion and the support favorable to that?
yes.
Brent? Okay. That is fine with me. Any other changes? I suspect we should vote on it as amended. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And the agenda as amended, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, the agenda is approved. And Chuck, you are up next, sir.
I'm ready. Thank you.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Again, I appreciate the chance to talk to everyone here and give a little overview of the ISD. I think it helps people understand what an ISD is and why it exists, because it's something that's there, but people may not understand completely. Last year when I was here, I was the interim superintendent. It kind of worked out, so now I am the permanent superintendent. I'm not permanent, I do have a contract, and I'm not going to work there forever, but it's worked out well, and it's been, I think, going very, very good. Really, I think it's nice to have an ISD superintendent that's got experience in the county and experience with the locals. Prior to the ISD, I spent 30 years at Reading Community Schools, so I feel like a local. I don't necessarily feel like an ISD superintendent in a sense. Anyway, the ISDs, there's 56 ISDs in the state of Michigan, and they're all a little bit different. They're unique to the areas that they specifically serve. And so our ISD here is there solely for the purpose of supporting the local school districts. And we have 10 in the county of Hillsdale. We have 8 traditional K-12s, and there's 2 charter schools that the ISD does serve and support. And again, that is the sole purpose of an ISD. It's not its own district, and I try to make sure people understand that. The ISD doesn't have students, they don't give credits, they don't graduate students. They do it all on behalf of the locals. The ISD has 9 classrooms that they do run for special education purposes. There's 3 ASD classrooms, that's autism spectrum disorder. There are 2 what they call MOSI classrooms, that's a moderately cognitively impaired classrooms. 3 what they call ISP, which is intensive support programs. Those are students with usually with emotional impairments. And then there's 1 young adult services classroom, and those are students that are 18 to 26. And again, the ISD operates those are called cooperative classrooms because it's a cooperative of all the districts in the county, and the ISD serves them on behalf of those locals. But all of those students are, it could be a Jonesville student, a Baldwin student, a Hillsdale student, a Reading student, that all come together. And when those students earn credits and when they graduate out of those programs, they are getting their local diploma, they are getting their local credits. Overall, as an ISD, it's kind of broken up into 3 areas. You have general education, you have special education, and then you have vocational education. General education provides some of the services like literacy support. That's a big push in the state of Michigan, which is important. You may have heard of the 3rd grade reading law. They want every student to be a grade level by 3rd grade if possible. So a lot of that support is done there. Our particular ISD is very special education heavy. Provides a lot of those special education services like those 9 classrooms I talked about. And then the vocational education, that's basically our career center, which is a huge support and opportunity for students to learn skills and careers for, what we ultimately want all our students to become, educated and productive citizens. That's what that's the goal. There are also some operational services that the ISD provides support to districts. If they are transitioning, maybe it's with business management, the ISD will provide support. If it's payroll services, they will provide support. There's been things in the past, cooperative purchasing through maintenance and custodial, so you can get better deals. the ISD can be viewed really as kind of like, it provides efficiency for the locals, and it provides some of those things that a local on its own couldn't provide. You know, like the Career Center. A local can't provide all of those CT, career technical education offerings on their own, so when it's done as a collaborative, it's so much more efficient. Which is one of the things I think our ISD, and people may not realize, is very efficient and gets a lot of bang for their buck in a sense when you compare what we have for revenue to a lot of the other counties. If you look at the Branch County, that's our neighbor. If you look at the total student population in Branch and the total student population here in Hillsdale, they're very similar. They're within a couple hundred students. But, for example, in special education, and I was just reviewing it this week, the special education budget here in our county is $15 million. In Branch, it's $23 million, almost double. You look at our Career Center. Our Career Center total budget is $3.5 million. Over in Branch, it's $9.5 million, triple. So I think we can be very proud of what we're getting out of what we have here. We're stretching everything and being as efficient as possible and really doing some good things and providing a lot of services that help our students. The other area that a lot of times people don't realize it runs through the ISD is the early childhood. You know, and early childhood is kind of broken up into two areas. It's birth to 3, and then it's age 3 to 5 before they hit that kindergarten. You know, a lot of times people think ISD is K-12, but it's right out of the gate. As soon as that baby's born, we do a lot of services that will go into the homes. If that student or that baby is showing any developmental delays, there's services for that. And again, it's a nice service to go right into the homes and provide those things. In the 3 to 5, there's a lot of education that goes on in collaboration with CA and the Head Start classrooms, and then there's also a classroom that the ISD has itself. In special education, when you hit the K-12, there's a lot of those services, the school psychs, the school social work, the behavioral support, occupational therapy, physical therapy. It goes back to that idea that the ISD can collaboratively provide those things to all the services or all the students in the county that are needed. Where one district, there's no way they could do all of that on their own. The Career Center, they're offering, you know, what I think, again, for a little budget compared to Branch, and even if you compare it to Jackson's Career Center, Lenway's Career Center, we are still offering criminal justice, cybersecurity. They have the Education Academy for those that are thinking about going into education, health sciences, mechatronics, and they're looking at breaking mechatronics up into some advanced manufacturing, trying to match up those fields with our local needs. You know, it's kind of a tough thing, and I know you guys can relate. The legislature always doesn't help in certain ways, but funding is based on what programs you're offering, and you get more funding if you offer a certain program that's in the top 10 list at the state level. But that top 10 list doesn't always match what our needs are here in our county. So you're gonna kind of balance that a little bit. The other one that we have, construction trades, that's a big one, and a lot of students take advantage of, and they're looking at expanding that. The game plan right now is to build at least 2 more homes, and then look at maybe branching that off a little bit to where they can specialize into HVAC, into more electrical, you know, those types of things that, again, matches up our need that our county has, but also an interest that our students, you know, setting them up for success in the future. We're also exploring some business services in the Career Center, some help programming for that, and then auto body, auto tech, how we can get some of those kids. We can't financially necessarily have a whole program, but they're opening up some different avenues where students could get into some businesses and receive that training and those opportunities that way. So working on that. ISD as a whole has over 140 employees, so it's a pretty good sized operation. Like I said, about a $30 million total budget. Some of the other things that the ISD does on behalf of the locals, we coordinate all the county principals meet every month to go over what needs there are and any professional development or any training or any resources that can be done collaboratively. We have the county superintendents that all meet every month and talk about any issues and how we can, you know, do the best we can. And right now, I will say it's kind of nice. You know, school of choice came in many years ago and it got a little cutthroat. Like, I'm going to take your kid, I'm going to take your kid, and because money's tied to it, I get it, I lived that world. I wanted every kid to be a reading ranger when I was there. But it's nice that there's a collaboration mindset now, and it's like, you know, these are all Hillsdale County kids, we're all in the same fight, so let's make everyone's kids the best that we can. And everyone's going to have their own little, you know, specialties. You know, if you think of a Waldron, you're thinking of the ag program that was historically great down there. Every local's still going to have that, but when it comes to doing the best thing for our kids, it's kind of a nice mindset across the board. Some of the things we're looking at in the future as a county, trying to identify ways to help kids as early as possible if they have needs. And when I say needs, it could be that student that's having trouble reading. It could be a student early on struggling in math. What are some resources and things we can do to keep them as soon as possible before they get too far down the road and then they get too far behind? It also could be behaviorally. You know, our students don't always come from, you know, the best settings and the best environments. So if there's something we can do earlier to help that kid, that's what we want to start to identify as much as possible. Another conversation we've started to have is on the other end of it. What about these students where the school environment is just not a good place for them? You know, whether it's a safety issue, maybe they've been expelled, you know, what avenues or what can we do to maybe, in a sense, give one more, you know, good effort to keep that kid so they don't just fall away and in a sense become a failure. What can we do to give them one more shot at life? And, you know, we know when you're in a school system, you're educating the masses, and not all students can necessarily function in a school system. They need some alternatives, and that's what we want to explore, so we can try to meet all the students' needs. And then, like I said, the other is the Career Center, trying to look at how we can stretch that and offer everything we can for whatever those students' interests may be, and match that up. So, a lot going on. I think it's good, but I really have been pushing hard, and at the time that I've been at the ISD and until I'm gone, is that we are going to be there to serve the locals and help the locals in any way possible. Okay. Any questions about all that?
Chuck, you mentioned number of employees, how many?
Over 140.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Last it was exactly 142, but sometimes that can fluctuate a little bit if somebody leaves to take another position or anything like that.
Right. What about, you mentioned 56 ISDs in the state. We've got 83 counties.
Yeah. When you get up in northern Michigan, they'll cover 3 or 4 county areas.
Okay.
Like Traverse City, which is called the Northwest Education Service Center, they'll cover, I think, like 6 counties.
Okay.
The UP, don't quote me, but it might have 2 or 3 total ISDs. There's massive geographical areas there. It is a luxury having just one county. I can get around to all the districts in the county easily here. But in some of those places, it's gonna be a 2-day drive to get out to some of them.
That's what I suspected, you know, as far as the north part.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
sure.
Any other questions?
Chuck, countywide, what are we seeing as far as student population in all of our public schools?
It's still shrinking. It's been going down for quite a few years. I think we're down another 200.
This year?
This year, yeah, countywide. Yeah, and which is just, it follows the state trend. The state's population is going down still.
There was an article in NY this last week of losing 25 to 34-year-old populations in our county. According to that, over the data they represented, lost 13.4% of the 25 to 34-year-old
Yeah.
population, which is your
Those people have children. Yeah. Yeah.
And thanks for coming and talking to us, you know, appreciate the work that you're doing at the ISD to work to support the local districts. I do know that you having come from one of those local districts and sitting on the other local district side as well, it feels a little bit different now working with the ISD than maybe it's been in the past. What, other than student count, what other challenges are facing the ISD and the local district out there?
You know, the biggest thing is making sure the resources match the needs. You know, and there's a lot of areas I could talk to, but if I just picked one, like the ASD, the autism, the spectrum disorders, the ASD student population is growing exponentially for whatever reason. There's a lot of theories and ideas out there on why that's happening. But that's bringing a lot of challenges. And that requires a lot of resources. When I say resources, it's not always just financially. You need people to work with those students that are trained and have a passion for it as well. So that is one. That would be the greatest thing, is just matching the resources with the needs, because the needs are really growing.
And you mentioned earlier, I think, helping those families with even children who are showing signs of slower development, even when they're younger. I appreciate the work that the ISD is doing in that. I know firsthand of a family that has a 2-year-old who is Down syndrome from birth. And there were in-home services that were provided, and now that child is also going to the ISD, I think, for an hour a week for some of that developmentally
Yeah.
training.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing, and I guess another change, is making sure people are aware of all of the services that are available, especially in early childhood areas. Speech services are huge. When that student starts to show delays, let's get them up to speed so that delay doesn't grow. And I appreciate you saying that. I do, even I'm the ISD superintendent, I still feel like a local superintendent and having that mindset. And, and I hope you don't mind sharing. I enjoyed going down to Waldron when Waldron was without a superintendent. If a local district's without a superintendent, you legally have to have a superintendent. And if they aren't able to name an interim, it automatically falls to the ISD superintendent. So it makes a little bit more work, but I enjoyed my time doing that for Waldron because I got to work with another Waldron school board and other staff and get to see what their culture is like and what their feelings and beliefs are. And so there's multiple districts that I've been able to work really close with. And I take it as a good thing that I'll hear from 4 or 5 different superintendents in the county every day. And I know when I was sitting there reading, I never called the ISD superintendent for anything. But most of the time, the ISD superintendent didn't live in the county, wasn't from the county, so I kind of thought, well, they probably can't relate to what I need. But now they call all the time. I'm really glad they do.
How are the districts I had a conversation with Mr. Caswell last night. I think he said North Adams has got somebody, but not necessarily full-time until this fall because they were in a commitment, so.
So North Adams has an interim currently, Mary Halley, and she's going to do it till, I believe, July 1st, and that's when their superintendent that they've hired, Wendy Moore, is going to take place, or take the position fully. So, and you never know, in education, and it's a challenge, another challenge you mentioned, is turnover in education is an issue. Consistency is the key to anything. If you have those people that are there and grow and become passionate, and that can make a difference. But when you're turning over all the time, it's always like starting over, and that's tough.
How many students countywide are in your program for going into education? And I know that that's also a challenging aspect, is finding teachers.
Yeah, right around 20. You may have seen it recently how they said that there's record numbers statewide of people going into education. Well, it's the most it's been since 2014, I should say. It's a little deceiving because it still isn't as much as the openings that are there. So, for example, like 7,000 people are going into teaching, but currently there's over 8,000 open positions unfilled. So we're still not getting there, and we've got so many classrooms with substitutes, and credit to them, they're working hard and doing what they can, but they haven't been fully trained, and it may not be a true passion for them to step into a classroom because it's not easy. And any of you want to, I'll take you to a classroom and you can fill in for the day and see how it is. But it's unfortunate that shortage is there, but it's a reality.
Depends on what grade you want to stick me in.
Yeah. I don't know, you might like kindergarten.
Yeah, that might be better than the older ones.
Right. But it's still a great profession. If that's your passion, it's a great profession. It really is, and it's very satisfying, that's for sure. But it's not easy. Not easy at all.
Katie's doing 5th grade at Tecumseh.
Oh, gosh, how many? Has she been there for a while?
I think she's been there now probably 4 years.
Okay.
Because she took a break, while her kids were little.
Yeah.
Because she started at Britain.
Okay.
There she did kindergarten and first grade. so.
Yeah. I know. Fifth grade, you know, everyone has what they like. I loved middle school. I love the energy, I like the silliness that they would bring, but other people would say, you give me a middle school classroom, I'll retire today. I'm not stepping foot in that. But boy, I take middle school, I love their energy.
In the state budget last year, there was the money for mental health and public and safety for districts. How many of the districts in the county agreed to take that with the language restrictions of the legislature?
Yeah, I don't think any did. The 31 AA funds, yeah, for school safety and school now, I don't think anyone took it out of fear of some of the strings that were attached to it. And I'm sure you guys are aware that the risk of losing governmental immunity, attorney-client privilege, those types of things. Which is unfortunate because the dollars were being used in the past and they're very much needed and they can make a big difference. But that long-term impact is scary because, you know, if you took those funds, it wasn't like you were under those conditions for just the time of the grant, like a year or so. It was forever. And so it was a big decision.
And I think that was out of the governor's office, correct?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, it was. And it was challenged in court. A group of districts and ISDs did challenge it, and they ruled in favor of the state. So now it is being appealed, but in my opinion, it's not looking real favorable. They're looking at the budget for next year. You know, February is when they usually have the revenue conference. The School Aid Act is looking solid, like they're projecting it between a 2 and 3% increase. But the issue, the general fund is looking down. So then you start wondering, well, are they going to pull from school aid to fill and backfill and start playing those games? You know, that's the tough thing about schools. People, I just had someone get on the ISD board that didn't realize this. You know, every school district and ISD in the state is required by law to adopt a budget by June 30th. You probably said in a bunch of those meetings. But the tough thing is you're adopting a budget with no idea how much money you're going to get. You don't know it because it's based on student count, so you really don't know what your student count is. And how much you're going to get per student. The state may not adopt a budget by June 30th. So it's really challenging. You know, I had a conversation with someone, they said, you don't know how much money you're gonna have next year? No, never. You know, and then like this year, how long did it take for the state to adopt that budget? So we're running along, and it's a challenge. It's a challenge. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Chuck, we all have limited resources, and so with the many school districts in the county, can you talk a little bit about what is happening, what conversations are taking place, or is actually already in place in regards to sharing resources amongst our public school districts?
Yeah, a lot of it happens at the superintendent meetings where we'll talk about, you know, for example, like curriculum. A superintendent can say, hey, I'm looking at this particular curriculum for my early elementary K-3. And they'll start to share and say, is anyone using this? Is it something that more districts than one want to use so we could get a better purchase price on it? Those types of conversations happen all the time. You know, they've started to talk about, there's some districts that purchase their buses, some districts are leasing buses. Is that something that can be done more collaborative? We're talking, you know, about that. So everything's on the table. Anything that we can do to stretch it and to save and make it more efficient, that's what we're doing. You know, really trying to take away that mindset of all of us being in silos. You know, your heart is in your district, and it should be. But if we can collaborate, make it better for my district, you know, that's the good mindset.
My other is we have Director of Course with us this morning from Reading Emergency, and they used to run an EMS program, and I know that the ISD at the Career Center, I believe, used to have an EMS program. And so I was wondering, perhaps because right now, to get that EMS initial education, which not only benefits professionally, but it also feeds all of our local fire departments that have medical first responder agencies, and in many cases launches people on career paths to higher levels. So whether that be nursing, physician's assistants, our new medical control director started as an EMT, and so she's a physician today. So it does have a great career pathway attached to it as well. So I was wondering if perhaps that, if there had been any discussion or thoughts of the Career Center coming back and doing some form of BMS education, because right now our students have to travel outside of the county to get that
Yeah.
education.
You know, I don't know for sure, I'd have to check with Jamie Mueller, she's the director for the Career Center over those programs, but I know she's real open to a lot of different things, so I can definitely look into it. But I don't know if there's been conversations or not. And if you're asking, I'm assuming there may not have been, so.
I'm sure Lynn would be delighted to speak with you.
Yeah,
about that.
I bet.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Jamie's actually involved us on several different programs she's
Mhm.
been involved with, so
Okay,
she's reached out to us, which is great. But yeah, I mean, anytime,
yeah.
because we did hire multiple students right out of that program,
Yeah,
and they were great, so
that's good to
it's
hear.
something that we would love to have again
Yeah,
if it's available.
okay, good, thanks for
You know,
bringing that.
I've worked with young EMTs from other counties that when they graduate from high school, they have both firefighter 1 and 2 and their EMT. And that is an amazing, because right now, basically, if you have those two things, you can get a job in a career fire department pretty much anywhere in the city of Michigan. So
Nice. Okay,
lots of opportunity there.
thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so you mentioned $30 million as the ISD budget. Can you describe where some of the funding or where all of the funding comes from?
Well, a majority of it is, comes through the state. Some of it is millages. The breakdown is the gen ed budget's right around 10 million, and the majority of that comes from the state of Michigan through, everyone's paying their various taxes and sales tax and so forth that goes through that. Special education is about 15 million. 5.6 million of that comes from the local millage here in the county. If you get your taxes, I'm sure you see the special education ISD millage in there. And then the other is the Career Center, and like I said, it's 3.5 million. 2.4 of that comes from the Career Center millage in the county. And that's what makes a difference when you go and start looking at some of the other ISDs in the other counties. For example, the special ed millage here, I believe it's 4.6, but I'd have to double check it. 4.6 mils, I can, some, right in there. No, it might be less than, it might be 2.9.
It's less than that.
2.9, might be 2.9. But
It's
that
a lot of
2.9,
numbers.
yeah, that 2.9 mils, okay, so let's say it generates about 5.6 million. 2.9 mils in Branch County would generate probably double to triple that, because it's based on the property values. And then the other counties like a branch's special ed millage is double what Hillsdale's is. So they're pulling double the mills, and their mills are worth so much more, so they have so much more revenue. But really, any of these budgets, it's local, state, and federal, and it's broken up that way. The local is going to be if there's a millage for it, to do for special ed and the Career Center. The other's coming from the state, and then there's a little bit of federal money. For example, for the Career Center, it's something called Perkins, that they get a little bit and I say a little bit, that they get like $60,000 roughly in federal money. Special ed, I don't have the breakdown, but it's a much smaller percentage than the local and the state as well.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah.
I went to the senior center breakfast the other day, and Representative Wertz spoke at it. And I don't know if you've heard or not yet, but she's talking about they're gonna introduce a bill to give grants for like Hillsdale County to combine schools to cut down the number of schools in our county.
Yeah.
She was talking like each school for just a superintendent and principal is like $200,000, and we have so many public schools that a lot of that money's from their budget is going to the supervision, and where in other counties such as Branch, they don't have that many schools, so that it's more money for the school.
Yeah, and you can, the efficiency is there, like, for example, I said Branch and Hillsdale have similar student counts. Branch has 3 school districts, we have 10. So it is 10 different systems, and it's something to look at. Those are called consolidation grants, and they've been around a while. The state's trying to kind of incentivize districts to join up for that purpose to potentially be more efficient. There's good and bad to those things.
Oh, I get that.
I don't think anyone wants to lose their neighborhood school or their little school in their town, and, because there's pride and it's important. And I think that's, when you can get those families that are generational that attend, I think that can be really good. But then you have to look at too, operationally, when you have a district with just a couple hundred students and another one with a couple hundred and another one with a couple hundred, if they were to pull together, maybe there's more offerings that could be done for the students. That has to be done really on an individual basis. You know, they've talked about consolidation for years in the county, and there's a couple ways you go about that. If two districts were to consolidate, they become a completely new school district. Okay, and just for example purposes, and since I was at Reading, say Reading and Camden were going to join up. They were going to consolidate. Then Reading Community Schools and Camden Frontier Schools would completely go away, and one new district would be formed. That's consolidation. The other option is annexation. So if I'm at Reading and say Camden is, I'm going to annex Reading, then what would happen is Camden would become part of Reading School District, and Reading District would be the big district. That happens if you're going to consolidate. That has to go to a vote of the people in the district, and both communities would have to agree. If it's an annexation, then the district that's annexing would need board action, but the district that's being annexed would have to go to a vote of the people as well. So it's quite a process. It's happened a couple places. Britton Deerfield, if you're over in that area. Albion was a district that just dissipated, and they were annexed by Marshall. So there's a process in place, but there's a lot to it. And again, I'd say, you know, there's good and bad to it.
Oh, yeah.
I you know, as the ISD super, I don't want to sit here and say, well, you should go away and you should not, and things like that. But no,
Oh, exactly.
it's definitely a worthwhile conversation. It is. It's good that it's being discussed.
I think the only one that we've had in recent years here in Hillsdale would be Litchfield and Jonesville.
There's no consolidation.
No,
Didn't they vote on that?
No.
They're still there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Vote, did they have a vote on it? I don't recall them even
No.
voting on it.
Yeah, I don't think it got
Okay,
that.
because I know there was a lot of discussion.
They just opened up Jonesville, and
Yeah.
because of school of choice,
Okay,
over half the students went to Jonesville when they did their big addition. But no, there was no vote on it.
okay. I couldn't remember, but, okay.
But we do have two consolidated school districts in the county.
Yeah, we got Camden Frontier and then North Armstrong.
Jerome, yeah.
Right,
Well, we have more than that, because Waldron is technically consolidation of Waldron and Prattville that happened
Years ago.
years ago.
And Osseo was incorporated into
Yeah.
Hillsdale, so.
Reading
I mean,
Montgomery.
those,
Yeah.
though, that the previous identities have pretty well disappeared, whereas at least there is still the identity of those two separate
Right.
school districts.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Good discussion. I
Yeah.
appreciate it very much.
well, I think we all learned a few things.
Yeah.
All right, look forward to seeing you again.
Sure, let me know if you ever need me back before next year.
All right,
Take
thank you.
care.
All right. Lynn, I believe you're next.
Good morning.
Morning.
Just here to kind of chat about our last quarter, all the information. I was finally able to get all of the data from Central on last year's numbers, so I can report now.
Do you have that printed off, Lynn? Because I didn't, it was not in the packet.
No, I don't. I have been all week trying to get it all consolidated. So I don't have it, but I can report that our missed calls that I haven't been able to report from October, there were 9, November there were 12, and December there were 9, so. Hopefully, there will be no trouble getting those numbers in the future, so I'll be able to report again as we had before. They do come to me in about 5 different reports, so I have to go through and consolidate all that information, so it takes a little bit of time. Staffing wise, currently I've got 3 full-time paramedics, 5 casual, and myself in the office. I do work the road still, as I will be sooner or later.
Casual is part-time?
Correct, yep. 3 advanced EMTs, 6 full-time EMTs, 10 part-time or casual EMTs, and I have 2 additionally in the office. And then 1 wheelchair or assist care van driver that's full-time and 2 casual. Staffing's been pretty much the same. I did pick up a couple more casual paramedics, which has helped out. But other than that, staffing's remained pretty stable over the last few months. Our mutual aid calls were up in December. Over the previous year, in fact, other than our wheelchair calls, all of our calls were up over the last year. We ended up somewhere around 300 emergency calls above the previous year, which is a pretty marked increase. So it's a very busy year for us. We're hoping it continues, but it's a lot to get covered, so we just continue to work on that, continue to increase staffing as much as we can, and roll with the punches. Do you guys have any questions based on the previous quarter? Any questions in general?
On those missed calls,
Yes.
have you been able to do any, dive into that and figure out why you were not able to take those calls at the time?
90% of the time, approximately, it's because we are on other calls. So there's a pretty consistent situation, we'll say, where because CMS, and that's how it works, you might sit for 6 hours and do nothing, and then 5 calls drop in the county at the same time, and you're trying to scramble and get everybody headed to them at the same time. Usually, in those scenarios, what happens is we can just start handling them, right? So we'll send 3 units out to calls, and as soon as they clear, they're able to jump on other ones, and you just kind of try to work and weave them into the process as much as you can. However, you can't prepare or even have knowledge of what you don't know is going to happen, right? So you can't guess that there's going to be 5 calls that come in at the same time. A really common one is, okay, so we've got 3 calls that just came in, and now we've got medical alarms hitting at the high rise, and we've got lift assist hitting, somewhere else here in town. Typically, we can get headed on those things, get canceled, and everything falls into one. But you just have no way of knowing how the calls are going to fall, and especially in terms of when you have those sections of big calls, you can't run any kind of reports that predicts that. So most of the cases where we were unable to handle the calls, that's what was happening. They were all falling at once. Some of the time that is because, for instance, maybe we have a car out on a transfer from the hospital to Kalamazoo, to Jackson. So that downs us a little bit. And then again, multiple calls fall, and we're scrambling to get everybody to them. Those are the 2 biggest cases where we miss calls. And you can only predict so much, so.
Any other questions for Lynn at this time?
When do you think if we were to adopt a central dispatch, priority dispatching, that would help the situation?
So, Central would tell you that they already priority dispatch. They don't say it on the radio, so to speak, right? So every dispatch has a code. A and B would indicate BLS calls, either hot or cold, so running lights and sirens or not. C, D, and E would indicate ALS calls, hot or cold, or echo, which is just send everything. Unfortunately, in order to know that or understand that, you have to have some dispatch background. So while they do follow the EMD protocols and they do priority dispatch in that sense, you don't hear it over the radio like you would in other counties, like, hey, this is a priority 1 dispatch to XYZ. know what you're looking for, you can find that information. So there's some challenge there. What would really make a significant difference, and what we've sort of set up some committees to investigate with med control, however, with the new medical control director, that's probably gonna change. What would make a significant difference would be tiered response that incorporates advanced EMTs. Currently, if it's an ALS call, dispatch will send the closest paramedic unit. Brad, you're familiar with the fact that a lot of the protocols can be met by an advanced EMT running limited ALS completely. So there doesn't need to be a paramedic unit sent to some of those calls. There is no tier for that currently. So we have to kind of work to try and work with med control to hopefully get it so that some of these calls don't require a paramedic response, which would ease some of the congestion throughout the county. So that's kind of, I think, where we're at. I know Thomas has suggested a committee. We were working on that. We'll see how that changes now, but that would make a significant difference is if we could get the tiers a little clearer.
And, you know, certainly in the case of diabetic emergencies and arrests,
Yep.
that, as you say, that those could be managed by those
Yeah.
mid-levels, that everything that is going to be done on that scene can be managed by that mid-level provider, so.
And there's, several other protocols where, short of the most critical level in that protocol, they can still be met by the advanced level, which is really helpful, but also would make the congestion a lot less significant, so.
What I'm really thinking more on though, because your very low priority calls, I'm not aware of, but again, I don't listen to 100% of the dispatch traffic, but we have a lift assist at the high rise, all right, and station 2 is put on that, and a difficulty breathing call drops, let's say, in Litchfield. Do we currently take that unit that has been dispatched, that lift assist, off of that call and then send them to, what is that higher acuity patient?
Right.
Or do we leave them on that lift assist?
So typically, Central will not redirect a unit. If my crews are in such a spot that they can hear that that's happening, they will often redirect themselves to the higher acuity call. Or say, what's happening in Litchfield, as you suggested, my advanced crew is here in the city, or my paramedic level crew is here in the city, they are able to say, hey, we're gonna go to that diff breather in Litchfield, please redirect, the reading call or the reading station, which is BLS maybe, to the lift assist. So if our crews can hear it, we know that it's happening, we can redirect, but typically Central doesn't redirect. Sometimes they'll have someone who will say, hey, hold on, we just had another call fall at the same time, can you go there? But most of the time they won't redirect us. That would be helpful. Again, some of the challenges that we have is that we don't necessarily always hear the dispatches. Typically in that situation, if they're in the ambulance, they would hear it and be able to redirect.
Right.
But something that we run into a lot is if we're in the hospital, we don't necessarily have great coverage with the 800 radio system yet. That probably will improve when new towers come up. But, we may be in the hospital turning over patient care and not hear that there's another call coming out. We go to hop in the ambulance and, hey, it turns out there's a call. Most of the time Central will let us know, like, hey, you're a little closer, can you take this? But sometimes we just don't have that great radio communication, so it's a challenge there. But they don't generally redirect us. They are pretty good about saying, hey, can you do a quick turnaround if we're in the hospital? If we hear it, it's perfect. So there are some challenges in that sense that I would like to see some improvement with. I think that we will see some improvement with better radio coverage as the new towers come up, but it's just one of those things we have to kind
should come online July.
Well, learning curve though, so realistically, we're probably looking at a year from now before.
Well, as far as coverage.
The
in the
coverage of the hospital
Yeah, I mean, we've been-
will significantly get better.
We've been operating on the 800 system, I think for over a year now with our radios. It's just a challenge because we don't necessarily have the best coverage throughout the county.
Right.
So I anticipate that when those new towers come up, it's going to improve significantly, but it's just a waiting game in the process. Of course, you can't have more than one person talking at a time, and there's just not, so there's some challenges with that, but I think that those will improve for sure. There's horizon there that we can see.
Any other questions for me? All right, I guess we'll see you next time.
All right, thank you guys.
Thanks, Lindy. All right. Lance, you're up next. Good morning.
Morning, how you guys doing? You guys read over my packet?
It is in I think everybody's had a chance to see it. It's in the packet, yes.
Okay. Do you have any questions for me about it? No
Did
questions?
you want to explain any of it, or?
Oh, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I'm just asking you to do your jobs. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Questions, comments?
No questions or comments? And can I get any of you to take up a motion for it, or would you like to read it over and maybe do that next meeting?
Anyone?
I mean, it's kind of important to secure our elections, don't you think? You guys realize that it is part of your responsibility to do that, right?
Go ahead, Doug.
So my comment, Lance, is that it's currently in the courts.
This issue is
It's currently in the courts, and I will not make a motion because it is active.
so this issue right here is not in the courts.
Okay.
It's been dismissed. So,
My
yeah,
comment stands.
that's fine. So, all of you are okay with our county clerk being on the stand in front of a judge, admitting to taking and destroying election materials. And you don't believe that our elections should be secured at all, or anything should be done in regards to county clerk that has made these admissions in court to maybe take care of our records at all? Anything?
Last meeting, I made the comment that, there's 3 branches of government, and we are not part of that judicial branch.
Correct. You're not judicial. Not at all.
Correct. And so I think Doug's comment is appropriate, because we're more the legislative branch.
Yeah, and it falls within your duties to secure our elections and our election paperwork and all that good stuff. It's all documented in that paperwork that I gave you. And it's quite clear that this issue is not before a judge. Other things are before a judge, yes, but not this issue.
But I think it could potentially, and I think that's, I'm gonna agree with Commissioner Ingles that until the judicial process is done, we don't wanna intervene in any way, shape, or form. At least I personally don't, because I want the judicial process to do its job.
Have you spoken over all this with your lawyer?
I didn't see the need. He has
You
seen the
realize that-
package, yes.
You realize that the county is liable for these issues if nothing is done, right?
I think you're stretching, because because of
Oh,
the three distinct levels of government.
have you spoken with your lawyer? I'm just asking if you have or not, because you probably should.
He has seen all the information you presented, and to my knowledge, he didn't discuss any red flags with me,
Okay.
so.
So,
But I think it falls back to my comment that, you know, there's three branches of government, Lance.
you do realize there's been a couple elections since all this happened. And, I mean, we all know that court cases are gonna linger for quite a while, and there's another election coming up. Are we willing to have that election carried out with all of this going on? And
I think you're borderline on making accusations when everybody is entitled to process.
oh, yeah, everybody's entitled to due process, but as far as I know, there's no charges even.
Correct?
Correct. Don't you think there should be an investigation into it?
That's up to the judicial branch.
I don't believe the judicial branch gets to make those decisions. I believe the county sheriff and the prosecutor and you guys get to make that kind of a decision. And if I understand the law correctly, and I'm not a lawyer, it sure looks like you are.
I know
And the
you-
sheriff isn't open an investigation, and the prosecutor's not open an investigation, and it looks like you guys aren't gonna open an investigation or do anything about it. So what is Hillsdale County to do about these issues that are very blatantly clear to everybody in the county?
I know you sent a lot of information to the prosecutor. She has been in contact with the county attorney. I do not know what her intentions are.
That
But-
information has nothing to do with this particular thing, that's a
She
complaint.
has seen this as well, so in some respect, it's all connected, Lance.
Oh, I know it's all connected.
Yeah,
I'm glad you said that, I appreciate it.
well, I mean, it goes back to the, you know, exactly what Doug said, so unless someone wants to bring it up, I think we're done. I mean, unless
Oh,
you
I
have
agree.
something further to say.
Oh, I did my job, see, I made you guys aware and gave you the opportunity to, you know, at least attempt to try to fix it, but, I mean, you can review, that's fine. Have a great day.
Thank you, Lance. All right. With the permission of Mr. Leiniger and Mr. Ingles, I would like to move Kevin next, as I see Mary's here.
Yep, I am fully agreeable to
Are
that.
you two agreeable to that? Thank you. So Kevin, if you would take that up, and then Mary doesn't have to spend her whole day here.
All righty. To the Honorable Board of Commissioners, we authorize the chairperson of the Board of Commissioners to sign the MSU extension agreement for extension services for the period January 1st, 2026 to December 31st, 2026. Furthermore, the county shall pay MSUE $132,933, which is the total county assessment for the fiscal year 2026. Payments of $233,25 will be made the first month of each quarter to the county fiscal year. Wait a minute. For the first month each quarter of the county fiscal year, and sent to MSU Extension Business Office, Justin S. Morrow, Hall of Agriculture, 446 West Circle Drive, room 160, East Lansing, Michigan, 48824. And I make a motion on top.
Support.
All right, is there any discussion on the motion? Mary, you have the floor.
Oh, thank you. This is our standard memorandum of agreement that we take before all of our counties, and, we, got everything approved in the budget when you did that at the end of December, and so We're just coming more as a formality, just to, ask you to sign it, and, the budget is already there. We've got a small staff here in Hillsdale, but we have access to about 30 other individuals that are doing work in the county on any given year, so, happy to answer any questions or talk with you more about the specific programs.
And as Mary indicated, this amount is what was built into the budget for 2026. We are past the 15th of the first month of the quarter, so and we forgot to even have this on the last meeting, but thank Mary for getting it put together for us and for the work that your staff is doing out there at the extension office. So.
Refresh my mind, was this, same or
This was a
increase?
3% increase
That's what I thought,
A
okay.
3% increase is what was requested.
over the prior year.
Yep, that's what I thought, thank you.
And I would have to go back and look, Commissioner, I was thinking that there was one year here recently where there was no increase.
It's been several years, but
Mhm.
yeah, in
Mhm.
2020, there was no increase, and then a smaller increase in 21.
Okay. Well, is there any further discussion on the resolution, because we'll vote on that and then we can go into any other discussions or comments.
My only comment is that I think Michigan State Red should have to recuse themselves from this vote.
Two of us anyway.
3, I think.
Good thing I'm a U of M
We've
grad.
got-
Yeah.
So you don't
I'm
have
a
a quorum.
Bronco, so,
So there's no quorum for the vote.
yeah, see?
Well, Commissioner, if we did have a conflict of interest and 3 of us had to recuse, the quorum is still determined by those that are still
Yay.
eligible to vote, so.
One.
This is
And-
true.
And, great that Mary's here this week because there is an event coming up, a couple of events coming up this weekend,
We were gonna get into that discussion after the vote on the resolution. Any further comments or questions on the resolution? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Benzak,
Yes.
Commissioner Leininger,
Yes.
Commissioner Engels,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Webb.
Yes. Resolution passes. Now, I'm gonna get the first question before we go. Who's gonna win on Friday night, Mary?
I don't even know.
This weekend,
See, what you
Friday
gotta,
night,
what you gotta understand
Is
is,
it basketball?
U of
Yes.
M,
Yes,
Friday
I
night,
don't watch basketball.
Friday night, the men play in East Lansing, and then Sunday, the Michigan State ladies play in Ann Arbor.
Ah,
what you gotta understand is, Mary went to U of M for her education too.
Well, I know, her and I talked about that before.
yeah, but Michigan State University paid off my student loan.
Yep, I know, that's what you're doing.
So she's kind of got split loyalty.
Yeah.
So, where are you housed now, Mary?
I'm in Monroe.
Are you still, okay?
I am in Monroe, yeah, I actually live in Monroe, and I cover 8 counties now, so I have a branch in Calhoun County as well as the District 12 counties, just interim until they find a new district director there for District 13,
Okay.
but,
Yeah,
yeah.
I didn't know if you had to relocate, because I knew you were covering.
No, my main office is still Monroe, but I'm here in Hillsdale a couple times a month. I make it to each one of the offices at least twice, and today I'll be in Hillsdale and then in Branch, so I'll hit 2 counties today.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Mary.
Any budgetary wise, through the state budget, any major changes happening at campus with extension?
No, so I don't know if I've shared this before, but actually the MSU extension budget is only about 2% of the total MSU budget. So a lot of people think MSU funds MSU extension, but it's just such a small portion of the budget. We were asked for a 6% reduction in that 2%, but the total reduction in our overall budget is, small compared to what others on campus are having to give up, because they're, 90% And we, in September, the state legislature did pass a one-time increase for MSU extension. So it was just for last year, it's not guaranteed in future years, but, so that did help offset some of that a little bit.
Go ahead, Doug.
So 98% of the funding comes from the counties.
No, actually only about a third of our budget is from counties.
Right, so 2% comes from MSU.
And we do a lot through federal grants,
Okay.
federal allocations, and then also through private grants. So
Okay.
we're very entrepreneurial when it comes to our budget. So we're not dependent on one area too heavily, so we can have a little bit of flexibility there.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Did you have any other highlights you wanted to share today?
I did want to let you know that our 4-H program, we're entering a new, I think you may have seen our slogan the last several years has been, gosh, now I'm trying to remember what it was. We're moving to beyond ready. So doesn't change a lot of the focus of what we were doing, but it hones it in and we're able to talk about how we're preparing youth for their futures, right? So if they want to get into trades, we're supporting in that area with our programming. If they want to get into, go to college, there's opportunities there. If they want to, explore different types of careers, we can help with that as well. And, and also just helping them understand how government functions and, how to manage stress in their daily lives and, help them grow personally as well. So, they can be productive members of our society when they enter that realm. And a lot of them, because of our focus on youth voice and encouraging that youth voice, they're participating in those government functions at a younger and younger age. They're leading their communities. They participate in our ambassador programs and, just taking a vested interest in their community as a result of a lot of the programming that we're helping them just be more have more self-esteem and take pride in the things that they're doing. So that's one. I will say we have some pesticide trainings coming up where people who need a pesticide license can come and take our classes and get the points they need in order to get their certification. So where we have those coming up, we have one in Hillsdale. Apologize, I don't have the date, but it's coming up rather soon. And then we'll be in some of the neighboring counties as well. So if people don't get it here in Hillsdale, they can, go a little bit further and get it in the other counties. And food safety is a big issue, especially people having power outages and things like that. So we do have a lot of resources on our website and articles about how long food can last in a refrigerator depending on the outdoor temperature and indoor temperature and all of that. So if you need any resources like that, just contact me and let me know. And then the other thing that we're developing right now, there's a lot of momentum around the state on data centers, and so we're developing some resources. We don't take sides on data centers. We present, the pros and cons and let the communities decide, because not every community sees it as a good thing or a bad thing, and just depending on what the needs are in the county or in the community, they can take the resources that we have and make those decisions for themselves. So those are the kind of the big things we're working on right now.
You and I talked a while back, and 4-H exists because of MSUE, correct? And 4-H is actually a trade name that belongs to MSUE, correct?
Well, it's a trademark name that, yes, all of, not just MSU, but all of the extension programs that
Okay.
have a 4-H. So it's a national program
Right,
that we participate in, but it is a trademark.
okay,
Yep.
okay. I was trying to remember, and I know
Mm-hmm.
we talked about that, I think it was last fall,
Yeah.
but, fund like that, they're sorted out, I think, I don't remember.
They do,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. Ingham County is, keeping their 4-H program and then going a little bit above and beyond that as well.
Mhm. Great. Any other questions?
When will you be coming back to give your annual report on activity? Do we
Steve, I
know
think we
that date?
scheduled that for May or March.
Give me just one moment, I can look that up. I think it was May.
That's what I was thinking, yeah. Because last year I did it in June, but that was because of a scheduling issue.
Second meeting in May.
And we're putting that annual report together right now, so.
That'll have all the 4-H numbers too.
Yes, yeah, because we just closed our calendar year, we call it the calendar year, so we just closed our books on the 31st.
Right.
So it's only been 2 weeks, we haven't, actually staff had until 5:59 on January 15th in order to enter all their data for the previous year.
When do
So,
kids have to have their sign up done for this year?
I'll have to check into that for you. Signups are going on right now, and it might depend on,
Renewal or new?
right, if it's a renewal, if it's new, but also depending on what they plan to show, if they're planning to show, they may need to get in a little bit earlier just to meet the deadlines for some of the activities that they have to participate in before fair. But our fair here is later than other counties, and so, they may have a little bit of an extended deadline, so I'll have to check into that for you.
And if you wanna just send that to Abe, he can fire it out to all of us,
I
and
will
then
do.
that way, when we go to our township meetings, we can mention it if we want to. So, appreciate it.
Great.
Any other, go ahead.
Mary, I hate to come back to 4-H because MSU Extension is a lot more than 4-H. It really is. And I know that my wife has regularly taken advantage of food educators. So that's a wonderful resource to have, and the work that Extension has done with cottage food law and helping those people who have those small businesses under that great thing. But coming back to 4-H, we heard earlier today we've lost 200 students across the county, and obviously youth is what 4-H is all about. So what is the discussion as those student numbers continue to drop, and it looks like, you know, that trend will continue. We are losing people, you know, in those childbearing years. I have 3 children, all adults in their 30s, one in their 40s, and none of them have children. That is not an anomaly.
Right.
And so, you know, the number of young people out there is most likely the trend for the foreseeable future will continue downward, especially in rural communities like ours. So what is MSU's discussion, or what are they looking at, and what will that look like for Hillsdale County in regards to that trend?
So a couple of things. I think we're not seeing the same trend in our numbers. We're staying pretty even throughout all of 4-H and most of the state. So that's good news, right? But we're not necessarily growing either. So there's opportunity there. We are just getting ready. This year, we're going to be doing a needs assessment in each of our counties here in District 12 with our 4-H families, but with ISDs and with the local school systems to help us understand what are the programs that youth are most interested in, and if we don't currently offer that, how do we make that available to the youth to encourage them to participate more? 4-H is much more than just fair. A lot of people, even when they think about 4-H, they just think it's fair and that's it. We have a lot of spin clubs or special interest clubs where we offer, for example, here in Hillsdale, we've offered science education where we do, you know, different science experiments and talk about like the science behind chocolate and creating chocolate bars and percentage of cacao and all that. And of course, there's tasting involved too, so that always encourages families to come out for that. We have babysitting that we've offered. We have a number of different programs, and I don't know that we've offered it here in Hillsdale, but, there's robotics, there's other things where kids are leaning towards, gaming and, those types of things. So we're trying to think more creatively and hire staff that have, more, skills in those areas too, so, but it's ever changing. So we have to do those needs assessments about every 5 years is what we're finding, because if you go beyond that, that data is just too old. Sometimes, in some cases, we may need to go even, sooner than 5 years, but we're, here in District 12, we're starting to take that on as every 5 years. So you'll hopefully see that coming around here in the district, trying to figure out what is it that those kids are interested in, what do they want to spend their time at, what types of careers are they considering, can we work maybe with the Career Center to offer some opportunities there, and if you have any ideas, I'd love to hear them too, so.
Anything else? Look forward to seeing you in May.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, let me know if you need anything else, and I will send you the deadline date.
All right, thank you. Kevin, why don't you finish your report, and then we'll move back to Brent, so.
Okay, had a Board of Health meeting the other day, and, it was time to elect new, chair people, and Commissioner Leininger is our new chairperson, because Hillsdale is up for the chair, and, St. Joe County, Commissioner Schaefer, they were up for the chair, and he got the chair.
The vice chair.
Vice chair, yep, excuse me. And there are, for our Hillsdale Health Department, there are 4 companies as of right now looking to walk through for doing new bids on HVAC replacement system. They're gonna replace that as soon as they get I think the 29th, the bids are all due, and they'll look at them for that. And my other meetings were canceled. I did go to a transportation meeting where we talked about funding and also how many people in the county and out of the county do transportation for Hillsdale County. And that was about all that was discussed there. I think we've only had 2 meetings so far, and it's just trying to work through some of the things. And that's all I have. My other meetings were canceled because the ISD was closed.
Yeah. There's been a lot of that.
They're cold.
Been a lot of closures. But I did see that probably over half the schools were back in session today, whereas everybody was closed yesterday.
Yeah.
Was Waldron closed today?
I think Hillsdale was the only school.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of any school that was open today, so.
Oh, Reading and Kingston are open.
Hillsdale is.
Yeah, my wife said
The only
something
ones
about
I saw-
seen Hillsdale on it.
And the only ones I saw on the on the Channel 10 ticker was North Adams and Jonesville, and I think Litchfield, so,
I talked to Chuck before the meeting, he said about half the districts were open.
yeah, that's still cold.
We have winter every year.
This is true, this is true. All right, any other comments or questions for Kevin? All right,
Yes, I would ask for about a
5-minute break,
5-minute recess.
that sounds good, we'll take 5 minutes. We'll be back at approximately 10:26.